वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरोन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सगन रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादां सगनललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन्निति नामने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणि प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे सर्वशास्त्रार्थ पीयूष सर्ववेदैक सत्फल सर्वसिद्धांत रत्नाढ्य सर्वलोकैक तृप्प्रद सर्वभागवत प्राण श्रीमद्भागवत प्रभो कलिध्वांतोदितादित्य श्रीकृष्ण परिवर्तित परमानंद पाठाय प्रेमवर्षक्षराय ते सर्वदा सर्वसेव्याय श्रीकृष्णाय नमोस्तु मे मदेक बंधु मत्संगिन मद्गुरो मन्महाधन मन्निस्तारक मद्भाग्य मदानंद नमस्तु ते असाधु साधिता गायन अतिनीचोच्चताकर आनम च कदाचिन माम रमणा हृत्कंठयोस्फुर ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय okay so just see where we are. This is all the description of Lord Krishna's pastimes. (22) and then 23. We are now in 23. Okay. दैवाधीनेषु कामेषु दैवाधीन स्वयं पुमान् को विश्रम्भेत योगेन योगेश्वरम् अनुव्रतः. Every living entity is controlled by a supernatural force, and thus the sense enjoyment is also under the control of that supernatural force. No one, therefore, can put his faith in Lord Krishna's transcendental activities, but one who has become a devotee of the Lord, by rendering devotional service. So here, but means except. Swami, यदा स्वाधीनेषु अपि भगवतः विरागः तदा दैव अधीनेषु कः विश्रम्भेत विश्वासं प्रीतिं वा कुर्यात् योगेन चेत् योग ईश्वरं श्रीकृष्णम् अनुव्रतः. If even the Supreme Personality of Godhead is detached from everything under him, everyone under him, then where is that person who would have faith or affection for anything under providence? And this is specifically talking about a person who is following Sri Krishna through the process of devotional service, Bhakti Yoga. And Sri Krishna has been described as Yogeshwaram. Jiva Goswami, Sacha Vairagya Leela Etat Bodhayitum Mityaha Daivaiti. And this pastime of Vairagya that was exhibited by Lord Krishna, that was to teach this particular lesson, which is noted in the current verse. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, no one but a devotee can understand the transcendental birth and activities of the Lord. The same fact is here corroborated. No one but one who is enlightened by the devotional service of the Lord can understand the difference between the Lord's activities and those of others who are controlled by the supernatural force. The sense enjoyment of all animals, men and demigods within the purview of the material universe is controlled by a supernatural force called the Prakriti or Daivi Maya. No one is independent in obtaining sense enjoyment, and everyone in this material world is after sense enjoyment. Persons who are themselves under the control of supernatural power cannot believe that Lord Krishna is not under any control beyond himself in the matter of sense enjoyment. They cannot understand that his senses are transcendental. In the Brahma Samhita, the Lord's senses are described as omnipotent. That is, with any sense, he can perform the activities of the other senses. Angani yasya sakalendriya vritti manti. One who has limited senses cannot believe that the Lord can eat by his transcendental power of hearing the prayers offered by the devotee, and can perform the act of sex life simply by seeing when he impregnates Mahatattva with the living entities. The controlled living entity cannot even dream of such activities in his conditional life. But simply by the activities of Bhakti Yoga, he can understand that the Lord and his activities are always transcendental. As the Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita 18.55, Bhaktiyamam abhijanati yavanyasyasmi tatvataha. One cannot know even a fraction of the activities of the Lord if he is not a pure devotee of the Lord. 24. Okay, there's something in the chat box. No one but one who is enlightened by devotional service. That means no one except one who is enlightened by devotional service. Enlightened means to become enlightened about the nature of this world, the nature of the living entities, the nature of the Supreme Lord, the nature of time, the nature of karma. This enlightenment. 24. Puriyam kadachit kridadbher yadu bhojat kumar kai kopita munaya shepur bhagavan matakovida. Once upon a time, great sages were made angry by the sporting activities of the princely descendants of the Yadu and Bhoja dynasties, and thus, as desired by the Lord, the sages cursed them. Notice this, Bhagavan Matakovida. The sages they cursed, knowing what was the desire of the personality of Godhead. This particular information is in third canto itself. So, when Vyasadeva presents Bhagavatam, he expects us to remember whatever he has taught earlier. So when we come to the 11th canto, at that time, we should not become bewildered why Narada Muni and Vishwamitra and the other sages cursed the Yadavas. It's because they knew the desire of the personality of Godhead. Shepuhu, Shapam Daduhu, Bhagavataha Mate Abhipraya Kovidaha Abhingya. They were well experienced about the opinion of Bhagavan. Bhagavan Matam tu Viprashapa Vyajena Mitsaha Yada Esham Ityadina Purvamuktam. Devaha Krishnaha. Where is Devaha? What is Devaha? It's Deva. Sit in the next. Deva Vimohita. 25. So they knew the opinion of the Lord. The opinion of the Lord was already spelled out in 3.3.15. Chakravarti. Iti Muninam dosha parihritaha. So from this, we understand that the sages are not to be criticized because they do not have any defect. Bhagavataha api tadrisha abhipraya karanam ekadasha ante vyakhyasya. That the Supreme Lord himself had such a desire, which was the cause for the destruction of the Yadu dynasty, will be explained at the end of the 11th canto. Chat box. When it comes to intolerance, how it is possible when new devotees or other people perform mistakes we can tolerate? I'm not able to clearly understand the question. When it comes to intolerance, how it is possible when new devotees or others perform mistakes we can tolerate? Or when people perform mistake, how we can tolerate? If you progress in Krishna consciousness, you tolerate. Tarorapi Sahishnuna. Purport. The associates of the Lord, who were playing the part of princely descendants of the Yadu and Bhoja dynasties, were not ordinary living entities. It is not possible that they could offend any saintly man or sage, nor could the sages, who were all pure devotees of the Lord, be influenced to anger by any of the sporting activities of the princes born in the holy dynasties of Yadu or Bhoja, wherein the Lord himself appeared as a descendant. The cursing of the princes by the sages was another transcendental pastime of the Lord to make a show of anger. The princesses were cursed in order that one may know that even the descendants of the Lord, who could never be vanquished by any act of material nature, were subject to the reactions of anger by great devotees of the Lord. One should therefore take great care and attention not to commit an offense at the feet of a devotee of the Lord. 25. Tatah. ततः कतिपयैर्मासे वृष्णि भोजान्धकादयः ययुः प्रभासं संहृष्टा रथे देव विमोहिता. A few months passed, and then bewildered by Krishna, all the descendants of Vrishni, Bhoja, and Andhaka, who were incarnations of demigods, went to Prabhasa, while those who were eternal devotees of the Lord did not leave but remained in Dwaraka. Okay. देवमोहिता एव वृष्ण्यादेः ययुः नित्यभूताः तु द्वारकायामेव प्रापञ्चिकलोक अलक्ष्यतया तस्थुः. So those who were the eternal associates of the Lord were invisibly present in Dwaraka in material existence. Devaha cha te mohitaha cha iti va. Deva mohitaha can also mean that the Devamshas were bewildered. That the incarnations of the demigods um, who had come to this world on the order of Lord Krishna, they were the ones who were bewildered. 26. Oh, there's something in the chat. Are there sages still present? Well, the sages live, first of all, long periods of time, so they're still present. The seven sages, Saptarshis are there. They're all there. They live long. No? That's why they are there. 26. Tatra snatva pitrin devan ऋषींश्चैव तदम्भसा तर्पयत्वाथ विप्रेभ्यो गावो बहुगुणा तदुः. After arriving there, all of them took bath, and with the water of this place of pilgrimage, they offered their respects to the forefathers, demigods, and great sages, and this satisfied them. They gave cows to the Brahmanas in royal charity. Vaya, Shila, Adi, Bahuguna, Upetaha, Yaha, Gavaha, Taha. They gave cows in charity, and the cows have been described as Bahuguna, greatly useful in the sense that they were filled with very many auspicious characteristics, such as proper age, good behavior, and so on. Tatra iti yugmakam. Text 26 and 27 form a single sentence. Looks like this. You should check if this reading is actually correct. Vayaha. It should be paya. Payaha is much more reasonable. This must be a wrong reading. Bahugunaha payashiladi which means they give cows which had lots of milk and which were well behaved and so on. Amongst the devotees of the Lord, there are several divisions, mainly Nityasiddhas and Sadhana Siddhas. The Nityasiddha devotees never fall down to the region of the material atmosphere, even though they sometimes come onto the material plane to execute the mission of the Lord. The Sadhana Siddha devotees are chosen from the conditioned souls. Out of the Sadhana devotees, there are mixed and pure devotees. The mixed devotees are sometimes enthusiastic about fruitive activities and are habituated to philosophical speculation. The pure devotees are free from all these mixtures and are completely absorbed in the service of the Lord, regardless of how and where they are situated. Pure devotees of the Lord are not enthusiastic to put aside their service to the Lord in order to go visit holy place of pilgrimage. The great devotee of the Lord in modern times, Sri Narottam Das Thakur, has sung like this. To visit holy place of pilgrimage is another bewilderment of the mind, because devotion service to the Lord at any place is the last word in spiritual perfection. Tirthajatra Parishram Sakali Maner Vram. For pure devotees of the Lord who are completely satisfied with the transcendental loving service of the Lord, there is hardly any necessity to visit the various places of pilgrimage. But those who are not so advanced have the prescribed duties of visiting pilgrimage sites and regularly performing the ritual. The part of the princely order of the Yadu dynasty who went to Prabhasa performed all duties to be done in a place of pilgrimage and offered their pious actions to their forefathers and others. As a rule, every human being is indebted to God, the demigods, great sages, other living entities, people in general, forefathers, etc., for various contributions received from them. This is a very fundamental concept in the Dharma Shastras, as well as Mahabharata, etc. Rina, debt, we are indebted. So it is very important because they have all given us different things, so we should pay back. Otherwise, it is a sin. Thus, everyone is obliged to repay the debt of gratitude. The Yadus who went to the Prabhasa pilgrimage site performed their duties by distributing land, gold, and well-nourished cows in royal charity, as described in the following verse. Here's something in the chat box here. How could we commit offenses to them? What does it mean? How could we commit offenses to them? How could we commit? Now, this question is not clear to me. But those who are not so advanced have the prescribed duties of visiting pilgrimage sites and regularly performing the rituals. What does it mean? Those who are not advanced in Krishna consciousness have to execute these duties, these material prescribed duties. They have to visit Tirthayatra, various pious holy places. They have to perform various rituals when they go to these holy places, as taught in the Dharma Shastras. Tavat karmani kurvita, until one attains absolute faith in pure devotion service to Krishna, exclusive pure devotion service to Krishna, one has to do all these things.
But Prabhu, what is the frequency or where to visit? What is the recommended thing for this?
These are all rituals for those who are not engaged in Nirapeksha sadhana. There are different, that is Vaikalpika. First of all, that is optional. One has to choose, one has to think on by himself. There are so many options, so many different options. In Bhagavad Gita itself, we see in fourth chapter itself, Vedic culture has so many different procedures by which we become gradually self-disciplined and purified. So Tirtha Yatra and performing all these rituals, these are all part of those options. Several. 27. Hiranyam rajatam shayyam vasam syajana kambalan yanam rathan nibhan kanya dharam vrittikarim api. The Brahmanas were not only given well-fed cows in charity, but also gold coins, bedding, clothing, animal skin seeds, blankets, horses, elephants, girls, and sufficient land for maintenance. Nyascha Vrittikarim Jivika Paryaptam. They are given virgin girls in marriage, those who required, for those who required. Okay, Ilajiva Goswami. Go Vipra Artha Asava iti. Where is that? Go Vipra Artha Asava. Go Vipra Artha Asava. Is that? Three point 3.28. It's just coming. It's towards. Okay. Okay, so this is actually meant to be in the next verse. For the next verse, but they put it here. Vrit, no, not Vrittakarim, it is Vrittikarim. Jivika Paryaptam. All these charities were meant for the Brahmanas whose lives were devoted entirely to the welfare of society, both spiritually and materially. The Brahmanas were not giving their services as paid servants, but the society provided them with all necessities. It was arranged for some of the Brahmanas who were in difficulty for marriage to be given girls. The Brahmanas therefore had no economic problems. The Kshatriya kings and rich mercantile men would provide them with all that they needed. And in exchange, the Brahmanas were completely devoted to the elevation of society. That was the way of social cooperation between the different castes. When the Brahmana class or caste gradually became easygoing, being fed by the society, although they had no Brahmanical qualifications, they degraded themselves into Brahmabandhus or disqualified Brahmanas, and thus other members of society also gradually fell down from the social standard of progressive life. Progressive life means you progress from Tamaguna to Rajaguna to Sattva to Shuddha Sattva. As described in the Bhagavad Gita, the caste system is the creation of the Lord and is arranged according to the quality of work rendered to society and not in terms of birthright as falsely claimed in the present degraded society. Chat. Nowadays, nowhere it is visible anyone doing charity of cows to Brahmanas. I do not know. I do not know. But in India, no, there are still people who sponsor protection of cows and like that.
In our side,
You
they
see,
give charity cows to the Brahmanas when somebody dies during that Shraddha ceremony and all this.
so they actually donate the cow.
Yeah, they actually donate the cow.
The cow with her calves.
Yeah, cow with the calf.
So it's still going on. Going on. 28. Annam chora rasam tebhyo dattva bhagavad arpanam go viprartha savah shura pranemur bhuvi murthabhihi. Thereafter, they offered the Brahmanas highly delicious foodstuffs, first offered to the personality of Godhead and offered their respectful obeisances by touching their heads to the ground. They lived perfectly by protecting the cows and the Brahmanas. This is what Kramasandarbha is referring to. Go viprartha asava iti parma dharmikatvam eva dridikritam. So it is reinforced that these Yadavas were supremely dharmic. Tena bhagavad ichaya eva tadrisha buddhitvam agantukam iti vyanjittam. So it is simply by the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that they got such an idea. Such an idea means the idea to fight with each other, the idea to make fun of the rishis, due to which the rishis cursed them, which will come in the 11th canto. Tatascha tatra tatra dandaha cha loka bhishnartham eva natu vastavam iti cha darshaktam. So it is just, so in that way, it is revealed that the punishments that were that happened in these different occasions, that is to frighten the world. It is not a reality. So we should be frightened to make fun of great sages. Bhagavadarpanam yatha bhavati govipra arthaha asavaha yesham. Asavaha is masculine nominative plural of asu. Asu means life. So their very lives were for the service of the cows and the brahmanas. Bhagavate arpanam yatra tat tat yathasya tatha govipra arthaha asavaha yesham te iti tesham dharmikatvam dhrikritya bhagavad ichha adhina samharatvam vyanjittam. Not only their lives were dedicated to the service of the cows and the brahmanas, they had even the charity that they're performing, it was done as an offering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. From this, we understand that their dharmic nature is being reinforced here, and that they were killed, they were destroyed because that was the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is revealed here. Bhagavad Ichchacha brahmana na kopaniyaha iti loka pravartana nityabhutebhyah yadavebhyah devadyamsha vibhajana tesham tan mishena swaswa pada prapana swiya shashtha aishwarya dyotana swabhakti bhakta dhama leela parikradi mahatmya gopanena bahirmukhaloka pratarana swabhakta jana anuraga vistarana adya iti. There are several reasons why Lord Krishna allowed the destruction of the Yadavas to happen. What was his wish? One was that the Brahmanas should not be angered. So this is to propagate this point to the world at large. Another was to segregate the eternal associates, the Yadavas who were his eternal associates, from the Devamshas, etc. Because that group will go to Swarga, and this group will go to Dwaraka in the spiritual world. Tat Mishena, and on that pretext, he sends them to their respective destinations. Apart from that, he himself is revealing his sixth opulence. Sixth opulence is Vairagya. Oh, that Swayam Bhagavata Ashtakam, that I should post a link. Very interesting. Swabhakti Bhakta Dhama Leela Parikara Adi Mahatmya Gopanena. By covering the glories of devotion service to him, of his devotees, of his abodes, of his pastimes, of his associates, and so on. Bahirmukha Loka Pratarana. He was deceiving those that population which was averse to him. Swabhakta Jana Anuraga Vistarana Adya. And he also wanted to expand the affection, the intense affection that his devotees have for him, etc. There are many reasons for why the Supreme Lord had this desire. Okay, what is this? And there's something else in the chat box. Seniors asked to get donations. Okay, so what is wrong with that? If we are going to use the money in Krishna service, that is proper only. Anyway, brahmacharis are supposed to do that. That's part of brahmacharya. It's supposed to go for bhiksha anyway. Collecting donation, we call it fundraising. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, that was called collecting bhiksha. Same thing only. That's the original scriptural Sanskrit. Offering their respectful obeisances by touching their heads to the ground. We see devotees offer obeisances by touching feet of sannyasis or brahmacharis. Is it proper? It is proper for those devotees. It's proper for them. But if we start taking these things too seriously, then we are going to be in big trouble when we hit reality. The behavior exhibited by the descendants of Yadu in the pilgrimage site of Prabhasa was highly cultured and exactly to the point of human perfection. The perfection of human life is attained by following three principles of civilization: protecting the cows, maintaining the Brahmanical culture, and above all, becoming a pure devotee of the Lord. Without becoming a devotee of the Lord, one cannot perfect one's human life. The perfection of human life is to be elevated to the spiritual world where there is no birth, no death, no old age, no disease, and no old age. That is the highest perfectional aim of human life. Without this aim, any amount of material advancement in so-called comforts can only bring the defeat of the human form of life. Brahmanas and Vaishnavas do not accept any foodstuff which is not first offered to the personality of Godhead. Foodstuff offered to the Lord is accepted by the devotees as the mercy of the Lord. After all, the Lord supplies all kinds of foodstuff both to the human being and to other animals. A human being must be conscious of the fact that all foodstuffs, namely grains, vegetables, milk, water, etc., the prime necessities of life, are supplied for mankind by the Lord, and such foodstuffs cannot be manufactured by any scientist or materialist in a laboratory or factory established by human effort. The intelligent class of men are called Brahmanas. And those who have realized the absolute truth in the supreme personal feature are called Vaishnavas. But both of them accept foodstuffs which are the remnants of sacrifice. Sacrifice is ultimately meant to satisfy the Yajna Purusha, Vishnu. In the Bhagavad Gita 3.13, it is said that one who accepts foodstuffs that are the remnants of sacrifice is freed from all sinful reactions and that one who cooks foodstuffs only for the maintenance of his body takes in all kinds of sins which lead only to suffering. The foodstuffs prepared by the Yadus at the Prabhasa pilgrimage site to offer to the bona fide Brahmanas there were all offered to the personality of Godhead Vishnu. Bhagavadarpanam comes in the verse. Yet the Yadus offered their sincere obeisances by touching their heads to the ground. The Yadus, or any enlightened family in Vedic culture, are trained for attainment of human perfection by total cooperation of service between the different divisions of the social orders. The word Uru Rasam is also significant here. Uru Rasam, where is that? Annamcha Uru Rasam Tebhyaha Datva Bhagavadarpanam. Uru Rasam. Uru Rasam, how does Prabhupada present a word name? Its word meaning. Uru Rasam, highly delicious. Rasam means juice. The word Uru rasam is also significant here. Hundreds of delicacies can be prepared simply by the combination of grains, vegetables, and milk. All such preparations are in the mode of goodness and therefore may be offered to the personality of Godhead. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 9.26, the Lord accepts only foodstuffs which are within the range of fruits, flowers, leaves, and liquids, provided they are offered in complete devotional service. Devotional service is the only criterion for a bona fide offering to the Lord. The Lord assures that he positively eats such foodstuffs offered by the devotees. So, judging from all sides, the Yadus were perfectly trained civilized persons, and their being cursed by the Brahmana sages was only by the desire of the Lord. The whole incident was a warning to all concerned that no one should behave lightly with Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. इति सारार्थदर्शिन्यां हर्षिण्यां भक्तचेतसां तृतीयोऽयं तृतीयेऽत्र सङ्गतः सङ्गतः सताम्. Chapter 4. I thought there is something in the box. Verses 3. So, it's a proper method of taking donations. By begging common people, give only 1 rupee, 5 rupee, or 10 rupees. By teaching Brahmanas, should not ask for donations. Then how? What is the proper? First of all, we are taking donations only for service to the Lord. We are not taking for our personal service to the Lord. We are taking it for the institution. So that is totally different. So why we need personal? Anyway, the institution is maintaining us. So why we require donations for ourselves? Dangerous. Associating with money, associating with women is all very dangerous. By teaching, Brahmana should not ask for donations. Then how? What does that mean? Then how? Or he should not ask for donation. That's all. What is the problem? If it comes, it comes. If it doesn't come, doesn't come. That's a Brahmana's thing. Who cares? I did my part. They're not doing their part. It's their problem. It's not my problem. That's how he thinks. Chapter 4. Vidura approaches Maitreya. 1. Udhavavacha. अथ ते तदनुज्ञाता भुक्त्वा पीत्वा च वारुणी तया विभ्रंशित ज्ञाना दुरुक्तैर्मर्मपस्पृशुः. Thereafter, all of them, descendants of Vrishni and Bhoja, being permitted by the Brahmanas, partook of the remnants of prasadam and also drank liquor made of rice. By drinking, they all became delirious. And bereft of knowledge, they touched the cores of each other's hearts with harsh words. चतुर्थे बंधु निधनम श्रुत्वात्म ज्ञान लब्धये उद्धवस्योपदेशेन क्षता मैत्रेयम आगमत. What is it? Kshata. What is Kshata?
One of the name of Vidura?
Kshata, no? It's a typing mistake, I think. No, Kshata. Kshata. Anyway, that is not clear to me, so I'll read out Vishnu Chakravarti's summary. Prakatyam Harishrutva Swakulasya Uddhavat Shwasan Chaturthe Swa Upadesha Artham Maitreyam Viduraha Vagat. Upon hearing about Lord Hari's unmanifestation and upon hearing about his own dynasty's destruction with difficulty, Vidura followed Maitreya to get that instruction which was meant for him. This is brought out in the 4th chapter. Shatta it is. If we find so much difficulty, imagine in the past how much difficulty they would have experienced. Every page there would have been spelling mistake. Unless the copyist was a proper scholar or something. चतुर्थे बंधुनिधम श्रुत्वा आत्मज्ञानलब्धये उद्धवस्य उपदेशेन चत्ता मैत्रेयम् आगमत्. In the 4th chapter, Chatta or Vidura, after hearing the destruction of his relatives, on the instruction of Uddhava, approached Maitreya to attain knowledge of the Supreme Soul. Tair Brahmanair Anugyataha. So after being permitted by the Brahmanas, the Yadavas, they did this. Varunim, Paishthim Madiram, liquor made of rice. Taya, Upalakshna Bhutaya, Bhagavata, Eva Vibramshitam Jnanam Yeshamte. There, they became bereft of knowledge by the arrangement of Bhagavan himself. Tair Brahmanaihi, Tena Krishnena Va, Anugyata. Here, Tat Anugyata can mean they were permitted by Brahmanas, but it can also mean they were permitted by Krishna himself. Marma Parasparam Niti Sheshaha. They spoke harsh words. And in that way, they pierced the core of the heart of each other. That is implied. In ceremonies, when Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are sumptuously fed, the host partakes of the remnants of foodstuff after the guest has given permission. So the descendants of Vrishni and Bhoja formally took permission from the Brahmanas and ate the prepared foodstuff. Kshatriyas are permitted to drink at certain occasions. So they all drank a kind of light liquor made of rice. By such drinking, they became delirious and bereft of sense. So much so that they forgot their relationship with one another and used harsh words which touched the cores of each other's hearts. Drinking is so harmful that even such a highly cultured family, cultured itself means self-discipline, cultured family can become affected by intoxication and forget themselves in a drunken state. The descendants of Vrishni and Bhoja were not expected to forget themselves in this way, but by the will of the Supreme it happened, and thus they became harsh towards one another. 2. Tesham Maireya Doshena Vishamikrita Chedasam Nimlochati Ravau Asid Venunam Iva Mardanam. As by the friction of bamboos, destruction takes place. So also at sunset, by the interaction of the faults of intoxication, all their minds became unbalanced and destruction took place. Varuni eva Maireyam. Tasya doshena nimlochati astam gachati sati mardanam kardanam. When there is need of fire in the forest, by the will of the Supreme, it takes place due to friction among the bamboos. Similarly, the descendants of Yadu were all destroyed by the will of the Lord by the process of self-destruction. Just as there is no possibility of a fire occurring deep in the forest due to human effort, so also there was no power in the universe which could vanquish the descendants of Yadu who were protected by the Lord. The Lord wanted them to be so destroyed, and thus they obeyed his order, as indicated by the word Tad Anugyata. They were permitted by Krishna himself. 3. Okay, wait. Something in the chat box. Kshatriyas are permitted to drink at certain occasions. So they all drank a kind of light liquor made of rice. Why is it so? They're permitted. Shastra permits them. They don't follow 4 regular principles. 4 regular principles are for, they're actually Brahmanical. They're actually Brahmanical in nature. And those who are interested in liberation or love of Godhead, they will need to accept these restrictions. Whichever varna, whichever gender, whichever age, whatever it may be, those who are moving towards uh, Brahma Upalabdhi, Brahman realization or Paramatma realization or Bhagwan realization. That means whether it is impersonal liberation or personal liberation or love of Godhead, they will need to accept Brahmanical prescriptions and prohibitions. So these are Kshatriyas. Kshatriyas are allowed to do these things. 3. Bhagavan swatma mayaya gatim tam avalokya sa saraswatim upaspurshya vrikshamulam upavishat. The personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, after foreseeing the end of his family by his internal potency, went to the bank of the river Saraswati, sipped water, and sat down underneath a tree. Atma Mayaya, Atma Samarthasya Gatim Purvam Eva Avalokya. Here he's talking of the chronology, what happened when. Sridhar Swami, Upasritya Saraswatyam Achamya. So he went to the bank of Saraswati, sipped water from Saraswati. Swatma Mayaya iti Indra Jalavadeva Moshal Leela Vyanjita. So he saw the end of his dynasty by his internal potency. Because it says Atma Maya by his personal illusory potency. There's an indication that this Maushala Leela is like a magic show. This will be more clarified in the 11th canto by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Nanu Vatsalya Para Varaha Bhagavan Kritachara Putra Pautradi Parama Palanaha Pradyumnadi Vadham Katham Sakshat Drishtavan Ityaha Bhagavan iti. Now, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is an ocean of affection, Vatsalya. And he was always supremely protective of his followers, sons, grandsons, etc. So how could he directly witness the killing of Pradyumna and others? Bhagavan iti. Mayaya gatim cheshtam Pradyumna adyaha yadavaha paraspara vadhena sadya eva nasham prapuhu iti sarvaloka pratyayana rupam swa atmayeti him madhiya maya tamapi sa mohed ityarthaha. He wanted to convince this world that Pradyumna and the other Yadavas, by killing themselves, immediately attained destruction. In reality, his Maya potency could not cover them, could not bewilder them. Mayayaha swa ashraya vyamohana swabhavatvat. Swa ashraya avyamohana swabhavatvat. Because Maya cannot bewilder those who have taken shelter of Krishna. ततश्च भगवता तु एवं विलोकितं नित्यं भूताः लीलापरिकराः प्रद्युम्न आदयः यादवाः द्वारकायामेव स्थिताः तत्तत् प्रविष्टच्चराः देवाः तु तत्तत् अंघ्रेभ्यः पृथक् कृताः तत्तद्रूपेण भासम् अनीताः. Okay, so the Supreme Lord saw that his pastime associates who were in the eternal category, such as Pradyumna, these were Yadavas. They were kept in Dwaraka itself. And the Devas who were present inside them, they were separated from their bodies and they were brought in the same forms, like these Yadavas, to Prabhasa Kshetra. Bhuktva Pitva Swalabdha, what is this? Swalabdha, there's something wrong with this typing up. Sukhena divam yayuhu. So it is these Devamshas who ate, who drank, and then happily they attained the heavenly worlds. Ateva Puropadye tat anugyata iti divam kantum ityeva tattvam. So the truth is that tad anugyata in the previous verse that appeared here makes it clear that all this happened so that they could attain the heavenly worlds. अतः राम प्रतिम्न अनिरुद्धानां भगवद् व्यूहत्वात् एते हि यादवाः सर्वे मद्गणा एव भामिनी सर्वदा मत्प्रिया देवी मत्तुल्य गुणशालिना इति यथा सौमित्री भरतः यथा संकर्षणादयः तथा तेनैव जायन्ते निजलोकात् यदृच्छया इत्यादि पाद्मोक्तेः. Now one should understand that Balarama, Pradyumna and Aniruddha, they are part of the Chaturvyuha of Bhagavan himself. This we know from statements of Padma Purana, such as he has actually quoted this. This is also a quote. Ete, beginning with Ete. This is all a quote. This is the Lord's statement to, if I remember correctly, he is speaking to Satyabhama. All these Yadavas, they are my own associates, O beautiful one. At all times, they're very dear to me, O goddess, and they have qualities that are as good as mine. Just as Saumitri and Bharata, just as Sankarshana and others. Similarly, these ones take birth from their own worlds by their own wish. Saumitri is Lakshmana. Devanam che hitarthaya vayam praptam manushyatam iti Harivamshe Akrura uktehe cha. And in Harivamsha, Akrura has also stated that to do good to the Devas, we have become human beings. We have become like human beings. Yadavanam nitilila parikaratvat teshu shastra adishu pravishtanam guha adinam devanam api adhikara madhya eva nasha anarhat maushal lila iyam mayikyeva. Because the Yadavas are his eternal pastime associates. What is it? Shastra Adishu. Something wrong with that. The Devas such as Kartikeya, who had entered into them, it is not appropriate for them to be destroyed while they were holding their official posts. So from that we understand that this Maushala Leela is certainly Mike in nature. It is just a magic show. Mike api sarva Mike srishti abhavepi Shri Krishna Leela antar vartitva achintya yoga maya anumodita nitya eva gyeya. And even though it is a magic show, still, because it is inside Lord Shri Krishna's pastimes, it is approved by the inconceivable Yogamaya potency of Lord Shri Krishna. And it is understood to be eternal, even though there is no creation of any Maya productions, any magical productions in this pastime. Let us look at the purport. All the above mentioned activities of the Yadus and Bhojas were executed by the internal potency of the Lord, because he wanted them to be dispatched to their respective abodes after he had finished his mission of descent. They were all his sons and grandsons and were given complete protection by the paternal affection of the Lord. How they could be vanquished in the presence of the Lord is answered in this verse. Everything was done by the Lord himself. Swatma Maya Ya. Lord's family members were either incarnations of his plenary expansions or demigods from the heavenly planets. And thus, before his departure, he separated them by his internal potency. Before being dispatched to their respective abodes, they were sent to the holy place of Prabhasa, where they performed pious activities and took food and drink to their heart's content. It was then arranged for them to be sent back to their abodes so that others could see that the powerful Yadu dynasty was no longer in the world. In the previous verse, the word Anugyata, indicating that the whole sequence of events was arranged by the Lord, is significant. These particular pastimes of the Lord are not a manifestation of his external energy or material nature. Such an exhibition of his internal potency is eternal, and therefore one should not conclude that the Yadus and Bhojas died in a drunken state in ordinary fratricidal war. Fratricidal war means a war between brothers. Sri Jiva Goswami comments on these incidents as magical performances. Okay, there's something in the chat box. The Lord's family members, how can they stay in heavenly planets? They should stay in Vaikuntha. It's not K-N-O-W, it should be N-O. Vaikuntha, comma, N-O, question mark. Okay. The Lord's family members, the eternal associates, they stay in Dwaraka in the Vaikuntha universe. Okay. And then you have the Devas. The Devas enter into the bodies of the eternal associates when the eternal associates come to this world. This is for Ram Leela also. So in Krishna Leela, it is definitely there. So when the Lord disappears from this world, then he separates them and sends them to their respective places. That is the point. It will be clarified in the 11th canto when we come to that. 4. Ham chokto bhagavata prapannarti harenaha badarim tvam prayahiti swakulam sanji hirshuna. The Lord is the vanquisher of the distresses of one who is surrendered unto him. Thus, he who desired to destroy his family told me previously to go to Badrikashrama. And this was told to me much earlier in Dwaraka. Badarim tvam prayahi iti. He had told him, you should go to Badrikashrama. Atra karanam asmal lokad uparate ityadi vakshiyati. The reason for this will be stated in 3.4.30 and so on. Okay, there's a question here.
Prabhuji, if only Devanshas were sent to Prabhas, then how the eternal associates who were kept in Dwarka, how they went back home, back to Godhead? Means there is no mention how they went, their disappearance.
The eternal associates did not disappear. They were just kept in the invisible manifestation, just as Krishna's Vrindavan pastimes become unmanifest after Krishna physically leaves Vrindavan and comes to Mathura. Except for certain times, his daily pastimes are all covered up to the eyes of the conditioned souls. Same way, when at this point of sending them to Prabhasa, at that time, the Devamshas, they were the ones who were sent there in the forms of these Yadavas, of course. And the original ones, by Krishna's inconceivable Yogamaya potency, covered up Dwaraka. And externally, there was a show put up as if Dwaraka was destroyed and submerged into the ocean. That is why it is said Maushala Leela is Mayik. It's a magic show. How do we know this? Because it can be inferred from the various scriptural statements that these dhams are eternal, these associates are eternal, that these pastimes happen all the time. Yatra sannihito harihi, the holy places like Mathura, Dwaraka, they are always described as places where Lord Hari is constantly present. Lord Hari is not constantly present without engaging in his constant pastimes. So from that we understand that is the unmanifest Dwaraka, unmanifest Mathura, unmanifest Gokula and so on. All elaborately analyzed in Krishna Sandarbha. Okay, Chakravarti. Ham cha uktah purvameva dvarakayam. Ham cha iti prakasha bhedena swasange ham rakshitah. Idam uktah cha iti saraswatya chakaram prayojita uddhavah. He takes note of this word cha here. Cha means and, cha also means also. So I was also told in the past in Dwaraka. By saying I was also, this indicates that in a different prakash. How do I explain prakasha? Prakasha is in a different realm, spiritual realm. I've been protected by the Supreme Lord and I'm being kept in his association. Tatra hetuhu. The reason for that? Prathame pakshe prapannasya mama artim swa viraha pidam harati iti tena dvitiye asmad lokad uparata iti vakshmana yuktya prapannaanam badri ashrama vasinam स्वांश नर नारायण आदिनाम आर्तिम स्वचरितम भक्ति ज्ञान वैराग्यादि श्रवण उत्कंठा रूपाम हरति इति तेना. Two reasons. One reason was to remove the pain that I would experience in being separated from him, who am surrendered unto him. So to remove that, the Supreme Lord kept me in one spiritual realm. And then there is this other realm here, the manifest. You have the unmanifest realm and you have the manifest realm. In the manifest pastimes, it will be pointed out in the 40th verse of this chapter that the Supreme Lord decided to depart from this world. So, on the basis of, on a logical consideration of the verses that will be brought out here, it is to be understood that he wanted to remove the distress of the residents of Badrika Ashrama, who are surrendered unto him. He wanted to remove the distress of his own Swamshas, Nara Narayana and others. And they were filled with utkantha, a great longing to hear about his pastimes for the sake of their bhakti, devotional service, jnana, spiritual knowledge, vairagya, renunciation, and so on. So they wanted to hear all these things. While at Dwaraka, Uddhava was warned to avoid the distresses which were to follow the disappearance of the Lord and the destruction of the other dynasty. He was advised to proceed to Badrikashrama because there he could associate with the devotees of Naranarayana, and in their association of devotion service, increase his eagerness for chanting, hearing, knowledge, and detachment. Five. तथापि तदभिप्रेतं जानन्नहं अरिन्दमा पृष्ठतोऽन्वगमं भर्तुः पादविश्लेषणाक्षमः. Yet, in spite of my knowing his desire to destroy the dynasty, O Arindama Vidura, I followed him because it was impossible for me to bear separation from the lotus feet of the Master. Tadabhipretam. Kula Samhara Adikam. I knew about his desire to destroy his dynasty and so on. Tadabhipretam. Yahi iti. Bruvan api. Prabhu mam. Prayahana tyakshati iti va. Kula Samhara Adikam va. He knew of the Lord's desire that the Lord will mostly not reject me. So because he's saying, you go to Badrikashrama. So that was one desire of the Lord. Another desire was to destroy the dynasty and so on. how the Lord disappeared. It will come in detail in 11th canto. Something will come here also. 6. Adrakshamekam asinam vichinvan dayitam patim Sriniketam saraswatyam kritaketam aketanam. Thus, following, I saw my patron and master, Lord Sri Krishna, sitting alone and deeply thinking, taking shelter on the bank of the river Saraswati, although he is the shelter of the goddess of fortune. Kritaketam, Krita Avasam. Kritaketam, taking shelter. He decided to stay on the bank of the river Saraswati. Aketanam, an ashrayam. He was situated as if he had no shelter. Adrakshamiti trikam. Take 6, 7, 8, the 3 verses. They constitute a single sentence in Sanskrit. Chakravarti Thakur. Ketanam ashrayana vidyate yasyatam. Prakrita, aprakrita vastunam vastutaha tadashritatvad bhava. He has no shelter because in reality, all material and spiritual entities are sheltered by him. Those who are in the renounced order of life often take shelter underneath a tree. The Lord was found by Uddhava in that condition of taking shelter, as do persons who have no shelter. Because he is a proprietor of everything, everything is a shelter, and everywhere is under his shelter. The entire material and spiritual cosmic manifestation is sustained by him, and therefore he is the shelter of everything. So there is nothing astonishing in his taking shelter in the way of the unsheltered who are in the renounced order of life. 7. Shyamavadatam virajam prashanta aruna lochanam dorvishchaturbhir viditam pita kaushambarena cha. The Lord's body is blackish, but is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge, and very, very beautiful. His eyes are always peaceful, and they're reddish like the rising morning sun. I could immediately recognize him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead by his 4 hands, different symbolic representations, and yellow silk garments. Virajam, virajasam, shuddha sattvamayam. Viditam, lakshitam, kausham, kausheyam. 8. Vama ura avadhishritya. Dakshinangri saroruham. Apashitarvakashvatham. Akrisham tyakta pipalam. The Lord was sitting, taking a rest against a young banyan tree, with his right lotus foot on his left thigh. And although he had left all household comforts, he looked quite cheerful in that posture. Adhishritya upari sthapayitva. Okay. Apashritaha, prishtataha, avashtamsaha, arbhakaha, balaha, komalaha, ashwataha, yenattam. He was taking rest against a young banyan tree, which means a tender banyan, tender ashwatha. Tyaktam pipalam vishayasukham yenattam. He had left all household comforts. This is what is generally referred to as Vishaya Sukha, the happiness of sense enjoyment. Tathapi Akrisham Anandapurnam. Still, he was not in distress. He was filled with bliss. Apashrita Prishtataha Avashtamsaha Ashwat. What is this? Nashvas Tishtati iti Ashwataha Bhuradipam. The Padavibhutir. Ashwatha here actually signifies the Padavibhuti, the 1/4 manifestation. Why is it Bhuradipam? Or is it Panchapada Vibhuti? Not improperly typed. अस्थिरा मायिका पृष्ठीकृत्येति अतः परं प्रापञ्चिकलोका मां न पश्यन्तु इति आशेन अर्भकपदेन स्वब्रह्माण्डेषु मध्ये अस्य ब्रह्माण्डस्य अतिक्षुद्रत्वं व्यञ्जितम्. He kept the Ashwatha tree behind him because after this he thought, let these worlds of material existence not see me. And this Ashwatha tree is also described as a young tree, Arbhaka, a child tree. So this reveals that amongst the various Brahmandas, this particular Brahmanda is extremely tiny. Tyaktam pipalam samapti krutta etad Brahmanda vilasam. Tyakta pipalam. It can mean having left household comforts, but it can also mean having completed his pastimes in this particular Brahmanda, particular universe. Pipala shabdena shrutya vishaya sukha uttehe. According to Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, the Lord sitting posture, keeping his back against the newly grown banyan tree is also meaningful. The Ashwatha banyan tree is so called because the tree does not die very quickly. It continues to live for many, many years. The Lord's legs and their energies are the material ingredients, which are 5 non. See? Panchapada Vibhuti. That's what it is. Bhuradi Panchapada Vibhuti. God, what an... Bhuradi Pancha. Pada Vibhuti. Earth, water, fire, air, and sky. The material energies represented by the banyan tree are all products of his external potency and are therefore kept to his back. And because this particular universe is the smallest of all, the banyan tree is therefore designated as small or as a child. Yakta Pipalam indicates that he had now finished his pastimes in this particular small universe. But since the Lord is absolute and eternally blissful, there is no difference between his leaving or accepting something. The Lord was now prepared to leave this particular universe and go into another, just as the sun rises on one particular part of a planet and sets on another part, but does not change its own situation. 9. Tasmin Mahabhagavato Dvaipayana Sukhrit Sakha Lokan Anucharan Siddha Asasada Yadrichaya. At that time, after traveling in many parts of the world, Maitreya, a great devotee of the Lord and a friend and well-wisher of the great sage Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa, reached that spot out of his own perfect accord. Dvaipayanaha Sukhrit Sakhacha Yasya Sa Swa Guruputratva Parashara Shishya Maitreya Ityarthaha. Maitreya is a disciple of Parashara. Actually, it's very well known. The entire Vishnu Purana is Parashara's teaching to Maitreya. And Vyasadeva is a son of Parashara. So he's the son of his guru. Therefore, Dvaipayana was the well-wisher. That means a friend of Maitreya. Yadrichaya. He reached that spot out of his own perfect accord. Kenapi bhagya udayena. It is by the rising of some good fortune. Akasmadeva. And he appeared suddenly. Maitreya was one of the disciples of Maharishi Parashara, the father of Vyasadeva. This Vyasadeva and Maitreya were friends and mutual well-wishers. By some fortunate accident, Maitreya reached the place where Lord Shri Krishna was resting. To meet the Lord is not an ordinary incident. Maitreya was a great sage and a learned scholar philosopher, but not a pure devotee of the Lord. And therefore, his meeting with the Lord at that time may have been due to Agyata Sukriti or some unknown devotion service. Pure devotees always engage in pure devotional activities, and therefore their meeting with the Lord is natural. But when those who are not up to that standard meet the Lord, it is due to the unforeseen fortune of accidental devotional service. The finest explanation of Agyata Sukriti. The unforeseen fortune of accidental devotional service. 10. Tasyano raktasya muner mukunda pramoda bhava nata kandharasya ashrinvato mam anuraga hasa samikshaya vishramayannuvacha. Maitreya Muni was greatly attached to him, the Lord. And he was listening in a pleasing attitude with his shoulder lowered. With a smile and a particular glance upon me, having allowed me to rest, the Lord spoke as follows. Pramoda bhava natakandharasya. Second line. There's a variant reading. Pramoda bharavanata kandharasya. Which would then mean the Lord's shoulder was lowered, and that was due to the weight of his happiness. Anuragena saha hasa yasyam taya samikshya vishrammayan vigatashramam kurvan. So the Supreme Lord was allowing me to relax. Tasya tatha bhutasya ashrinvataha api mam eva uvacha. Even in that situation, even though I was not attentively hearing him, he spoke to me. Tatopi swasya anugrahyatvam yanjitam. So from that, we also understand that he was meant to be the object of Lord Sri Krishna's mercy. And therefore, this will be stated Swayam Bhagavata, by Swayam Bhagavan himself. Asma Lokaduparate Ityadi Dvabhyam, in text 30 and 31. Ateva Shashti. Ateva Tasya Ashrinvate iti tad vachane kinchit Gopanamudracha darshita. So in that way, the Supreme Lord indicated that he is going to reveal something confidential only to him. Tasya anurakti adi visheshana vishishtasya api mam eva uvacha. Even though Maitreya Muni was greatly attached to the Lord, still the Supreme Lord only spoke to me. Asmad api swasya prema aspadatva adhikyam yanjitam. In this way, it is revealed that more than Maitreya, it was Uddhava who had greater affection for the Lord. Deva Shashti. Anuragasya hasaha prakashaha yasyam taya samikshaya anuraga hasabhyam vritya va vishramayan mam vigata viraha shramam kurvan. So by his affection for me and by his smile, he had removed the exhaustion caused by feelings of separation. Although both Uddhava and Maitreya were great souls, the Lord's attention was more on Uddhava because he was a spotlessly pure devotee. A Jnana Bhakta, or one whose devotion is mixed with the monastic viewpoint, is not a pure devotee. Although Maitreya was a devotee, his devotion was mixed. The Lord reciprocates with his devotees on the basis of transcendental love and not on the basis of philosophical knowledge or fruitive activities. In the transcendental loving service of the Lord, there is no place for monastic knowledge or fruitive activities. The gopis in Vrindavan were neither highly learned scholars nor mystic yogis. They had spontaneous love for the Lord, and thus he became their heart and soul, and the gopis also became the heart and soul of the Lord. Lord Chaitanya approved the relationship of the gopis with the Lord as supreme. Hence, the Lord's attitude toward towards Uddhava was more intimate than towards Maitreya Muni. 11. Sri Bhagavan Vacha. Vedahamantar manasipsitam te dadami garavapavanyai satre pura vishvasrajam vasunam matsiddhikamena vasotpayeshtah. O Vasu, I know from within your mind what you desired in the days of yore. In the days of yore means in the days of ancient times, when the Vasus and other demigods responsible for expanding the universal affairs performed sacrifices. You particularly desired to achieve my association. This is very difficult to obtain for others, but I award it unto you. He Uddhava, te manasi ipsitam aham antastitaha veda vedmi. Because I am situated in your heart, I know what is there in your heart. Dane hetuhu. The reason for the Lord awarding Uddhava what he wanted, that is stated. Vishwasrajam vasunam cha militanam satre. When there was a meeting of the Vasus and the creators of the worlds in the universe in a Satra fire sacrifice. He Vaso iti pura purva Germany tvam Vasuhu abhuhu tada madprapti kamena tvayaham shtaha. He is referring to Uddhava as Vasu. In the past, that means in your previous life, you were a Vasu. So at that time, you desired to attain me. Atastat sadhanam dadhami dasyami. So I'm going to give you that means by which that can happen. Anyaihi mat paramukhaihi dushprapam. That cannot be attained by others, meaning those who are not my devotees. अतएव नित्य पार्षदत्वे अपि एकांशेन वसुत्वम उद्भाव्य आदिष्टम. So even though he was an eternal associate of the Lord, Uddhava, in one aspect, Vasu was there. So the Supreme Lord brought him to the forefront and gave instruction to that Vasu. Chakravarti, Vedmi, yat annehi durapam tadami. I'll give you that which others cannot get. Dane hetuhu vishwasajam vasunam cha militanam satre. He vaso iti purva janmani tvam vasu abhuhu tata mat prapti kamena tvayaham ishta iti. Nitya Leela Parikare Uddhave Vasoh Praveshat, because one of the Vasus had entered into Uddhava, who was an associate of the Lord's eternal pastimes. Nitya Siddhasya Api Uddhavasya Sadhana Siddhatvam Maitreyam Uddhavam Cha Gyapayam. So even though this was the case, he says that Uddhava attained the perfection of his sadhana, even though he is actually a Nitya Siddha. Nitya Leelaya Rahasyatva Rakshanartham Yechittu Leela Parikara Uddhava Dwarakayameva Sthitaha Vasurupa Uddhavayam Ityahu. So informed in order to protect the confidential nature of the eternal pastimes. Some authorities, though, say that the associate in the eternal pastimes, that Uddhava, he was kept in Dwaraka, and that this Uddhava here is actually a Vasu. Uddhava, it's 9 o'clock. Okay, we'll deal with the purport next session. What is this? 11 purport. 11 purport is almost there. Almost there. So tomorrow, 3.4.11. So we'll stop with that. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः।